Welcome, everybody, to Let's Make It Weird. My name is Matt.
I'm Jake.
And I'm that third wheel Dan.
That's what it says on his birth certificate.
Even when he goes on dates, he's like, hey, I'm the third wheel.
Yeah,
I know there's only two of us.
There's only two of us.
There's only two of us, but trust me. Someone else is coming.
Someone's coming.
So how are you guys doing today?
Good.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Well, luckily we have some delicious beer in front of us. What is this, Relay Tavern?
You know, it could be.
Colonial Williamsburg.
This is Old Stitch. Old Stitch is I think a brewery in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
I
got this from my sister's boyfriend, so I did not pick it on myself, but I can always ask him later.
There you go.
So,
Yeah, I've got myself, the Williamsburg Pale Ale, which is delicious.
I got Toby's Triple Threads Porter. Good for you, Toby.
And I got the Old Stitch Brown Ale.
All right, well, today we've got a particularly special topic. It's our Halloween horror episode, which is, 2 weeks late?
Yeah, we're 10 days late.
Whatever. That's fine. We're at least we're doing it.
I guess.
Yeah,
and
it's a thought.
Yeah, it's a thought that counts.
Our Halloween Spooktacular in July.
Well, today we're going to be talking about some horror movies that we just recently watched, and a ghost graveyard tour that I took right before Halloween, so it was right in the mood, and it was awesome. So we'll talk about that at some point. But we're going to have you guys start off with the movie that you saw, and that was what again?
It's called In the Mouth of Madness.
Okay.
By John Carpenter, part of his Apocalypse trilogy, along with The Thing and Prince of Darkness.
I believe it is Prince of Darkness.
I already forgot the title of this.
When was In the Mouth of Madness made?
1985.
1985. Okay, so it's around the same timeline that all these other movies came out.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think there's like a 10-year span.
Okay.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was the final movie in the trilogy, and one of my favorite movies of all time. It combines really interesting horror, like cosmic horror. If you know anything about H.P. Lovecraft, it's very steeped in that. But it combines that with kind of almost 90s slapstick.
God.
At least at the beginning, when he kicks the orderly in the balls, and then he's like, "I'm sorry about the balls." Like, almost goofy at times.
Yeah, let's say it's got a weird blend of comedy that's just kind of sprinkled in every now and then.
Yeah.
It only makes it more uncomfortable, I feel, though.
I
A
can
little
see
bit,
that.
yeah. I mean, when you the first line of the movie is like in a mental health care facility, and you listen to it and you're like, is this real? Like,
Yeah.
because it seems so fabricated. Like the way the guy talks is just so weird. It's just not normal.
Yeah, and the movie does this great thing where, so you're watching from, I forget his name, but he's an insurance claims adjuster.
Okay.
Yeah.
You watch the movie through his eyes, but there's always this sensation that the people around him aren't seeing the same thing as him.
Oh, damn.
And I think that sense of isolation really lends itself well to this movie.
Yeah, and it's not just him though. It's like everybody around him also is kind of seeing different things too.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So
Damn.
the whole world is pretty crazy
Yeah.
in this movie.
So it starts in media ray with him in a mental hospital at the end of these events, and you find out that he is, as I said, an insurance claims adjuster or investigator.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you commit fraud, he's going to find you.
Yeah.
Very good at his job.
And he's the best in the biz.
Yeah.
Sounds like Neil Breen.
Yeah.
Never mind, we'll talk about that movie another time.
I'll get that
Update, his
reference.
name is John Trent, by the way.
John Trent.
John Trent.
There you
Good
go.
old Johnny T. So he is tasked with finding this author who writes these amazing horror books. The author's name is Sutter Kane, which is just a creepy name. And his books are linked to feelings of paranoia and terror and eventual insanity. And anyone who reads his books, like, just they can't get enough of it. Like, there are riots in the streets because, like, the supply can't keep up with demand. And one day he goes missing, and, like, he stops writing in. So there's a very cool scene early on when you don't know who the good guys and the bad guys are. When John Trent and I think the owner of a company are sitting at a diner, and you see some dude across the street with just pale white face, gaunt eyes, holding an axe, walking towards them. And he breaks the window of the diner, and he's standing over John Trent, who's like, lying on the floor. He's like, do you read Sutter Kane? And before he can kill him, he gets lit up by the cops. And
you have to know that John Trent is not fazed by this at all. He just kind of is like, just looks at him with a blank stare and then moves on with his life. That is not a traumatizing experience at all for this
No,
guy.
he goes on and, has himself a cigarette and some scotch at home.
Yeah, that's how badass John Trent is.
Yeah,
that's how good he.
I mean,
at what
as
he
an
does
insurance adjustments claims person, you have to be a little detached from the world. Otherwise, people constantly trying to kill you because you're investigating their insurance fraud.
Yeah,
that's going to cause problems.
Yes, he was completely unfazed. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So he goes on, has a cigarette, glass of scotch, and never once thinks about this incident again.
What a dinner.
Yeah, really, never really considers it.
But the cool twist early on, and spoilers abound in this episode, guys. Early on, he finds out that dude who tried to kill him with an axe was Sutter Kane's editor or agent? Agent, who I guess read his final novel. And I guess knew that this was going to happen. It gets a little confusing in the second half.
Yeah.
So he finds this made-up town, and right now he's thinking, like, this Sutter Kane going missing is all just a publicity stunt. So he finds that if you cut apart the covers of the books, they form a map of
New Hampshire.
Yeah, some New Hampshire town.
New Hampshire, yeah.
And it's very H.P. Lovecraft, Middle America.
Yeah.
This hidden town called Hobbs End, and so he goes there with this girl whose name is
Linda Stiles.
Linda Stiles. You're way better at remembering this name.
I have a good note system.
Good memory.
Goes there with one of the editors for this publication called Linda Stiles, and they encounter weird things along the way. I think I've said enough.
Very much so, yes.
Chip?
A lot of weird things on the way. And they eventually, drive out to New Hampshire to find this Hobbs End place.
Mm-hmm.
And while they're driving, they go through this dream sequence while John Trent is sleeping in the car.
Yeah, Linda's driving
And
this time.
it's just really weird. It's really surreal. And then once the sequence ends, they end up in Hobbs End during the daytime.
Okay.
Like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing crazy going on. They just arrived. And the weird part about Hobbs End is this is the town that Sutter Kane always wrote about.
Mm-hmm.
So all the monsters, all the weird, crazy things that happen in this town actually exist while they're there searching for him.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the fictional characters in his novels are
Real
people,
in this town. And it's just crazy. Because they go into this hotel and they go up to the front desk where a lady who ends up killing her husband in one of the Sutter Kane books.
That's actually a really interesting point. I like how they described how they did it. According to Sutter Kane, according to the books, she hacked her husband into coleslaw with an axe.
Yes.
I don't like coleslaw.
So yeah,
meat pie, baby, is a better metaphor then.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
When we write Sutter Kane, we'll say meat pie.
When. There's not an if, it's a when.
Yeah.
Corned beef and hash. I can go for
Corned beef and
that.
hash you can go for, okay.
Welcome back to our cooking podcast.
Yay!
Off that tangent. But yeah, they go there, and there's a painting on the wall behind them that the actual painting moves. And it's super creepy, and it gives us
Very cool.
surreal vibe. And that's the first thing you notice in the town that's really off.
Well, the first thing is, before they even get to the inn, it's that Linda Stiles sees those kids run by, and
yeah,
he doesn't.
John Trent doesn't. That's
Yeah.
right. Why? I don't know. Why did she see them?
It's kind of a
Before
weird
he did.
subplot. It's just like...
But those were the least creepy kids in the scary
Oh,
movie
yeah.
I've ever seen.
They get creepy.
They were the least creepy I've ever seen.
They get creepy.
No, they don't.
Do you remember they're all zombified later on?
Yeah, but that's not creepy child.
Oh, okay, so
it's not
it's
Children
not
of the
villain-
Corn creepy.
Village of the Damned. Yeah.
Yeah, Village of the Damned, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that creepy.
No, they're just normal
Yeah, they're just normal kids
New England kids.
calling Linda Stiles mommy for some weird reason.
Oh yeah, you're our mommy now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fuck are you
no.
talking about?
But anyway, to get back on point,
Yep.
they go into the hotel room after they check in and talk to the crazy lady. And from the hotel room, you can see the church written in his Hobbs End novels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they believe he is.
The source of all evil.
Yes.
Oh.
And so the next scene, they head towards the church, go in. Lo and behold, Sutter Kane is there.
Okay.
They find him
With the town's children.
with the town's children, yes. And
Never
then all
good.
the townsfolk come in, with their guns. They're like,
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna get you. And then they're chased away by demon dogs, apparently.
Oh, I didn't even think they were demon dogs. I thought they were just dogs.
I think they were demon dogs, man.
I mean, probably. Least scary way for an evil entity to... That's like Mr. Burns, just release the hounds.
Yeah.
So that always kind of got me that,
Yeah.
he's not bringing up zombies or ghosts. He's
Yeah.
like, sick 'em, boys.
Get him Spot.
I think it was a budget decision, to be honest.
Yeah, that's usually how these horror movies go. And, oh my god, was it John Carpenter's not necessarily known for high budget movies?
Nope.
He usually
No.
has a pretty decent budget because he can get some pretty good distribution on this stuff. But, his stuff is not known for high quality special effects. Although, The Thing, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, those practical effects were amazing.
Oh my god. Oh, I love that. That was so good. But no, so I can see how dogs would be a logical step for a special effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just throw some
This
ketchup
is
on a dog and he'll
Just
be good.
conjecture, of course. Maybe
Yeah.
it was like a creative decision. I don't know.
Could be exactly
no,
what he was
fucking
going
dogs.
for.
Could be exactly what he wanted.
I want this master of the underworld to use dogs.
Yeah.
Big thing to point out is that when they leave this scene, John Trent is once again not scared at all, angry. He's like, how could you drag me into this
Yeah.
publicity stunt?
Well, he's not buying any of this.
No, absolutely
he's-
Oh, okay.
And Linda admits
Linda's terrified.
back when they get to the hotel that it was actually a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
They did not know where Sutter Kane was, and they thought that, this might be good for book sales.
Mhm.
Even though their book sales are apparently out of, control.
Yeah.
Most popular book in the world.
Exactly, and they need a publicity stunt for some reason, but that's beyond me.
Yeah.
And so Linda starts freaking out in the hotel room when they get back, because she's like, "Yeah, this was a publicity stunt, but now shit just got real. Like,
Yeah.
This is next level. What the hell is going on? It's going crazy for her, and she's trying to convince John Trent that this is totally happening. Like, yeah. You got me, but not anymore. This is way over the top. And so that's when they end up splitting up. That's when Linda Stiles ends up going her own way, and John Trent keeps on trying to investigate and get to the bottom of it.
They're never really on the same side.
No.
Until the very... not even at the very
Not
end.
even at the very end.
Yeah.
Well, he's always skeptical of her.
Yeah, and she's
So-
just, as she becomes more and more unraveled.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't help.
And it's at this point the movie just gets way out of my... I don't even know. I'm going to let Jacob take it from here, because I don't have any grasp on what is actually happening
Okay, so basically...
once that happens.
Yeah, things get weirder and weirder. They both kind of go their separate ways to investigate. Linda goes to the Black Citadel, the Black Cathedral, and it's got, all the typical horror tropes.
Yeah, that's the
it's-
church
yeah.
where they...
Yes,
Sutter Kane
yeah.
was, yeah.
She goes in, the walls are breathing, Sutter Kane's writing his novel in the basement, and he says some cryptic statement, basically alluding to the fact that everything he writes becomes true, and he's powered by, the old ones,
Oh god.
like H.P. Lovecraft's
Yeah.
sort of demons. And she gets a chance to read ahead, and so she does, and he's like, "Do you like how it ends?" And I believe her nose just bleeds, and she doesn't answer.
I think so, yeah.
And in the meantime, he's going off, and he hears he, being John Trent, hears weird noises coming from the basement, and the innkeeper, this nice old lady, is mutated into this weird tentacle thing, and is hacking up her husband with an axe.
Okay.
And he's like, "Fuck this shit," and he gets out, and
I think he should have believed at that point.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he
Well,
sees
He doesn't.
yeah, no, he's still skeptical as hell. And also, Chip mentioned that there's this painting. Each time they view it, the first time, I think the head moves. Next time they view it, there's it's an English couple next to a lake.
Okay.
And in the second one, I think there are these mangled demons coming out of the lake.
Oh.
And in the third one, it's just full on horror.
Cool.
So he's going and he thinks he sees something in the greenhouse, and it's never really alluded, but it's and I'm skipping around.
Yeah.
because movie kind of breaks down, and I forget the sequence of events. He sees some swamp thing, which I think is a nice reference to the Nightmare in Innsmouth, I think it's called, about swamp people. from
Okay,
H.P.
yeah.
Lovecraft.
Yeah.
And he goes, somehow him and Styles meet back up, and he, like, straps her into the car, and they drive out of the city, out of the town. But in the movie keeps doing this. They have, like, these weird time loops where the same scene is repeated over and over again.
Yeah, that's where I get lost. Because it's like him trying to get out of the town, but, like, every time he gets so far away, a white flash happens.
Yeah, and he's right back.
And then it's right back where he started.
And he's he's like, oh, I must have taken a wrong turn on the highway and got mixed up, and he's trying to make all these excuses. Mm-hmm. And there's this part where each time he goes, he's stopped by this huge crowd of, like, mutated people. Mm-hmm. And they all have pitchforks and melted faces, and they look gross. And he's trying to get away from them. And eventually, he just crashes his car into them.
Yeah.
And wakes up in daylight on the side of the road. And this little kid that he saw earlier, like, asks him if he needs help and says, "Do you read Sutter Kane?" and, like, all this stuff. And that's when Sutter starts messing with him. He's like, he explains his source of his powers and what he's trying to do. And they're having this talk on a public bus. Mm-hmm. And this is a really cool scene, I think.
Yeah, I like this scene.
Sutter Kane explains, like, at this point, he's basically master of this reality. And he says the line, "Have I ever told you my favorite color is blue?" And when Trent wakes up, everything in the world is tinged blue. Everyone's wearing blue clothes. There's, like, a blue filter over the lens.
Oh, shit.
And he just loses his shit. So, and I think we just pretty much sum up the movie at this point.
Yeah, I think that's basically it. Like, Sutter Kane, I guess, is the master of reality.
Yeah.
What he writes is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote, basically, John Trent to basically give his story to the world.
Yeah.
Because if anybody reads In the Mouth of Madness, which is the book he wrote, they will go insane.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was always meant for John Trent to bring that book to the world.
And there was no way for him not to.
And there was no way for him to avoid it. Because he gets, like, you jump to John Trent later, after, like, that
like
sequence,
a year later.
where he's talking, and it's a year later in the real world, but to him, it's, like, the next day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, he loses a year.
Yeah.
And he's begging this, the same publication executive from the beginning of the movie, just like, "Oh, you can't release this book, it's going to kill him." And the guy's like, "Well, John has already been released for a year, the movie premieres tomorrow." And that's when it goes back to him at the insane asylum, because it turns out he killed some dude with an axe. Mm-hmm. Well, the world's gone to shit. You hear radio reports of, like, roaming groups of strange, misshapen beings and mutated people wandering the streets. You can't trust your family. And so he goes to the movie theater, gets a book, get a popcorn, and watches the movie of his life. Mm-hmm. And it just ends with them laughing, and the laughter becomes kind of like almost sobbing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I didn't get that part of it.
I got that. It's like he realizes the futility of things. Like,
I suppose.
Do you know what I really didn't get? When the executive... Don't think too hard about that. When the executive was like, "You keep mentioning this Linda Stiles, but she's never worked here before."
Yeah,
I can't figure out if that was a product of his imagination or if Sutter Kane wrote her out. Because, I mean, she obviously, like, had agency. Like, we see scenes from her point of view when...
Yeah.
What's his name is asleep.
Well, not that, but he brings her in, and she's a point of contact in conversation.
Yeah.
When they first meet.
But there's so many scenes of her going off and doing her own thing that it doesn't seem like, she just never existed.
Exactly.
He could have written her out of the story.
That would
He
make
could have
sense.
written her out,
Yeah.
I don't know. The main thing I think is that John Trent was insane, and that was it. But I didn't get it.
Dang.
So that's the movie. Heavy influence from H.P. Lovecraft, as we said.
Yeah, it was good. It's definitely worth a watch, especially if you like Metallica, because the opening credits of that movie are just a Metallica song. I don't remember what it was. But
another weird 90s choice.
Yeah, it was so weird.
It's
and it was a printing press. It was a printing press and Metallica, and that was the opening credits.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you gotta strap in right away and get ready.
Yeah.
I can see early Metallica being perfect for that sort of opening.
And after that opening, it's like the insane asylum,
Yeah. I feel like they should have gone
it's
surrealist.
super intense Metallica, printing press. Yeah, paper's awesome. In the Mouth of Madness.
Papers.
And then, like, oh, we're bringing this crazy dude in. And we're going to talk weird and funny and not like normal people. Oh, it was good. I would say definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, at least I've seen it
Definitely worth a watch.
I think I've seen it maybe 5 times now. I really enjoy the movie, but at least once is good enough, yeah.
So every listener out there that we can influence to watch In the Mouth of Madness, which is all 2 of you maybe.
Yeah.
That's being optimistic, of course.
Getting those sweet royalties for Mouth of Madness.
Oh, yeah.
Movie that came out 21 years ago.
Definitely give it a watch.
All right, well, good. I'm actually very excited to see this.
Yeah, we'll have to watch it sometime.
Good, yeah.
I'm trying to think of another movie that really kind of delved into kind of cosmic horror like this.
I had none.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly have none.
And
I don't really know many movies that really are influenced by H.P. Lovecraft in general.
It's
I
such
guess
a hard thing to write.
John dies at the end, maybe.
Yeah,
I would say sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of.
I mean, especially because
there's another movie called The Occult that wasn't really. It was like a B-rated movie, but like it definitely dived into Cthulhu and all that kind of cosmic horror. But
yeah. Well, even Hellboy.
Hellboy, yeah.
Definitely deals with that, especially with. I mean, there are just these beings of untold power that exist somewhere in the universe.
Yeah.
And the whole interaction with our fragile existence. And especially in the. I don't know if you guys have ever read any of the Hellboy comic books.
No.
They deal so much with this sort of cosmic horror of just invisible, unseen, but present and able to influence our world beings.
Yeah, I've kind of heard that.
And it deals with like witches and demons and dead gods and stuff like that, or zombies. It is such an interesting read. If you ever get a chance to read into the Hellboy books,
definitely look into that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean they're beautifully illustrated, specifically for like the style of horror that it is. It's simple lines. There's not terribly too many details to the things, but it's detailed enough that you get a strong sense of just how fucking weird Hellboy is. It is
movies
so
didn't
good.
really portray that.
The first one, they held back on the first one. In the second one, if you ever saw that one, was like the Golden Army.
Oh, that was dumb.
It wasn't great, but that was more of the sort of world that he existed in. That was much more of the bigger scope of like that extra world. It was crazy.
Did they make a third?
They were talking about it. There's no real talk about a third one.
God damn it, Ron.
Although, I mean, yeah.
All those Marvel movies.
Ron Perlman will make any movie you put money in front of him for, so.
Yeah, he's making a movie for me, actually.
Good.
Another related reading / watching, and I'm sure everyone's gonna love me mentioning my favorite plug, but Berserk actually has a part. You watched the Eclipse scene, right?
Yes.
That's a little more H.R. Geiger in the way the monsters are made, but they still have like the swirling tentacles and the weird male-shaping bodies.
Faces on the floor made of faces and the ceiling made of faces.
Yeah.
Of the universe, I guess.
Yeah, the floor and ceiling are made of human faces.
Cool.
Yeah.
And all the monsters are like, it's a body with a mouth, and the mouth is mouth, and the teeth have mouths, and there's also tentacles.
It gets pretty intense.
It gets real weird from what I've shown you.
No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, great.
How do you plug that every chance you get?
I think I mention it at least once a day. Most status calls start with me saying, well, I watched Berserk last night.
To be fair, most conversations we have start with, you know what I should watch?
Berserk.
What, Jacob? Berserk. Yeah.
Thank you, Jake.
I do what I can.
Well,
Welcome back to our Berserk podcast.
Yeah. I have a very special story for everybody for my Ghost Walk tour.
Oh, I'm excited.
It happens here in Illinois, in Elgin. And we went to the outside the former site of the Elgin State Mental Hospital. Right now, it's actually a institute for the criminally insane. which that's a very low fence with no barbed wire around it for the fact that it's a prison for the criminally insane. Let me just state that first. Criminally insane. I don't know what it takes to be criminally insane other than you've committed a crime and you're found to be insane, so you go there. Usually I think it has to deal with murder or something like that, but
I think it has to be like a special.
I think it's tax evasion, to be honest.
Criminally insane. Only tax evasion.
Tax evasion.
But it was such an interesting tour. It was more of learning of the history of the site and its joining gravesite.
Mm-hmm. Oh wait, wow.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But the tour was called Hell's Back Gate, and we went up to what was considered the back gate for the Elgin State Mental Hospital, and it was actually built to be this big, sprawling, beautiful place for people who were depressed or had anxiety or had some sort of mental disability that made them, I guess, I hate saying it this way, but difficult to fit into society. This would be a place for them to go and relax and recuperate, and they would be able to really work through what is causing them all these problems and try and integrate them back into society. It was part of it was called the Kirkbride theory. It was to provide mentally unstable a place of peace and solitude, and they might be able to help themselves so they can be released back into society.
And then they decided to call it Hell's Back Gate?
Well, that's the nickname that came later.
Oh, Jesus.
The idea was that it would have its own farming, it would have stables for horses and for cows and chickens, and it would be...
lovely.
Like a self-sustaining kind of thing?
Yes, it was more of like think of it almost like a health commune back in the day where you'd go and you'd try and just... get better.
Yeah.
And,
when is back in the day? Like when was?
This was 1870s.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So it was originally started. They started building it in 1869, and then they opened for the first time in 1871 with its first patient. And it was
that's a 2-year difference. What did they do for that?
They were building.
Yeah. Started building in 1869. Misheard. Okay.
And so but they were open to the public. It wasn't private. Anybody could go there who needed help. That was the thing.
That was the mistake.
That would become the mistake.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
Yeah, because what started happening is, there was enough doctors and nurses to deal with each patient individually, and then it got to its max, 300 patients. It was a lot, but you had enough staff to help everybody. Wonderful food, beautiful grounds, everything was clean. And then the state said, you need to take in more patients. The hospital said, we don't have enough rooms. The state said, you need to find room.
Is this state funded or private?
It's state funded. So what they did is they had put more, they put more beds into each room, so that instead of it being 2-3 people per room at the most, it became 10 people.
Oh man!
Shit.
And then there were bunk beds, and then they started breaking down walls and putting in more. So instead of it being rooms, it was dormitories.
What a nightmare!
And then they started putting pallets in between beds so that people would sleep in between the beds. It became overcrowded in a matter of decades.
Wow. So where did it go from 300 to?
I think it was in the upper thousands.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just so overcrowded. There was. It went from being just enough staff to help each person to nearly, I think it was 1 nurse or doctor per 100 patients.
So it worked until
the state got it.
Fucked it up royally.
It was working perfectly.
I can see the state fucking some shit up back in the 1900s.
Yeah, because
why that's so weird.
Because then
I've heard stories like this.
Well, it got to the point where if
even this is before we really knew like mental health.
Well, exactly. if
We had
you
a
even
good
looked
idea.
if you even looked like physically deformed, you were sent to the hospital because you were unpleasant to look at. If you had a cleft lip, or
They really
if-
didn't give a fuck. back
no,
then.
they honestly didn't. If you didn't look
You were
quote unquote
unpleasant to look
normal,
at.
yeah, if you didn't look normal, then you
were
were
out?
you were out hard.
Throw all you fuckers in the loony bin.
Seriously. There were husbands that would deposit wives there because they were just tired of her.
Oh yeah, hysteria.
Exactly. They'd cut out her uterus and pump her full of methamphetamine until she was fine. Or just unable to talk.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So then after the turn of the
History
century...
is a horror story.
Yeah. So in the turn of the century, what they started doing is to kind of help fund some of... all of the fact that they were overcrowded, they started doing experiments on patients.
No.
And the idea was, especially at the turn of the century, that if they were mentally handicapped in any way, they actually couldn't feel or express human emotion or pain the way we did.
Isn't that just an easy cop out?
Yes.
Oh, very easy. That's what we say about fish these days.
They
We
were,
say about plants, man.
yeah. Yeah, they were treated no better than a head of cabbage. Probably worse, because they would fill patients with irradiated, with radiation, or I forget what the kind of chemical, but it was a radiation chemical, and they'd pump it full of them for 10 days. They'd get an injection every day, and then afterwards they'd just observe them, see what happens. How long do they last with this? Or if we introduce them for this way or this way. Or the idea was put cold water on them, stick them outside, chain them to a tree for the night in the cold. What happens? It was horrible. The government would send LSD or other drugs that they wanted to test out. See what happens to them.
And that started out with such a good, positive way of helping people.
Absolutely. This place was... And
It's crazy how like many of our medical breakthroughs are born on the back of incredible suffering and
Exactly.
just nightmare situations.
because now they're using micro doses of LSD to treat people with addiction. They're finding that if...
It's good for PTSD.
Yeah, absolutely. These, like, what's the other one? I think it's, like, microscopic doses of ecstasy. If they're given to couples in, like, a couple therapy session, they actually have stronger, more lasting breakthroughs in their relationship than they
Are you
do.
sure it's small doses of ecstasy?
Tiny, tiny doses. Just enough so that they're open and more
Yeah.
free with their emotion.
I would think if you gave a couple ecstasy, they'd be okay. Just
But this
Just
it keeps
one
them
dose of
from
ecstasy, I think
it keeps them from being high,
Yeah.
like super high, to just enough where they are able to interact with each other civilly.
yeah.
But it's they didn't do this here.
No.
No. They just poured acid into the veins of these people and just sat back, see what happened.
And you have to think if these people are truly insane, then you have no control in this experiment. You're
Absolutely
giving
not.
crazy drugs to crazy people.
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense.
They just tested them.
Just because.
Yeah.
Fuck it, we'll see.
Um,
Who knows?
then the amount of rape that happened at these places,
Oh, god damn it. I never
patient
thought
on patient or staff on patient, children were born and lived inside of this place. They
What a
never
fucking
knew the
nightmare.
outside.
Wow.
Yeah, it was terrible. No one wanted to be inside of this place because of how much it stank. So they went out in the grounds and roamed around. Sometimes they'd escape. Sometimes they'd just live outside.
Or just die. But what year are we at right now?
This is
Early
this is
1900s?
the early 1900s, and this whole drug experimentation goes through the 1960s as well.
Yeah, because I'm kind of getting like some MK Ultra vibes from the...
And the other thing too is the amount of bodies that they had to deal with. There's no clear record of how many people died at this place. They don't know. And what happened was and they're still there. You can go and see this. There are 2 giant smokestacks
Oh no.
towering into the sky. a lot of the times it was just trash that was in there. Sometimes there was more than just trash in there, and there were people.
Yeah, who's in charge of this facility?
Well-meaning
Hitler's
doctors.
brother.
They honestly, it was these doctors really tried to do their best, and they wanted to do their best. And the state tried to entice staff and doctors by giving them free housing, good pay. They were given their own special prepared food and stuff like that, so they didn't have to deal with any of the bullshit that the patients did. But at the same time, they were overworked. They just did not have enough to go around for everybody.
And they just went from well-meaning doctors to the worst Frankenstein monsters I've ever heard of.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like that Nietzsche quote, battle not with monsters, lest you become one.
Yeah. Oh, and lobotomies. Everyone knows about lobotomies.
Oh, no, yep.
This was a fun standard practice that they did here.
That was standard practice. That was, as you said, husband would drop off his wife. She's hysterical. She's got the vapors or whatever you call old-timey drugs, and lobotomized.
Mm-hmm. And, Chip, you know what a lobotomy is, right?
Of course.
Okay, good.
Are we talking ice pick lobotomies, though?
It's sort of.
'Cause
Basically.
I would love if they actually went with those.
So,
Just
for
tack
anybody...
on the, terrible things.
For anybody in the listening audience that doesn't know what a lobotomy is, imagine someone takes a really long ice pick and puts it up to where the bridge of your nose meets the inside of your eye socket.
Oh, this hurts.
And they've got that pressed up against there. No anesthesia, they take a hammer and go tink, 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 until it breaks through your skull, the hardest part of your skull.
Do that? I thought they just hit the frontal cortex of where, because you know how your nose is. I thought they didn't have to go through the skull.
They had to go through that.
I thought they just kind of went straight up. Boop,
no. Well, because what they do then is they hit the part right here into your forehead.
Yeah.
And then they jam basically a long rod with a little hook up there and swirl it around.
It doesn't take much for a lobotomy. It just takes one dink and you're pretty much reset.
Sometimes.
Factory settings.
It kind of is, though. I mean,
sometimes these lobotomies actually made them worse. So
exactly. It's a crap because you don't know what you're hitting.
Exactly. Yeah. So
hammers and chisels are not medical tools.
So they go back in again.
You're hitting their higher thinking. You're thinking you're hitting the front.
Yeah.
And they might have a memory problem or something with the corpus callosum. You don't know. They didn't know any of that shit.
No.
Oh, absolutely.
They're this works.
They just know that it kind of calms down some people, and if it doesn't others, well, then they go in and swirl around some more.
Yeah.
They just kept doing it.
Was electroshock therapy a practice?
I was going to ask that.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It was... I mean, if anyone's ever seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest...
It's a sad movie.
It's a sad-ass movie, but it happened all the time. If a patient was too unruly, what do? Strap them down and put electricity into them until they cook the brain, basically.
Until you're a vegetable.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Disease in this place. Good God. Typhoid would go through there.
How should they be like a wildfire?
Oh, yeah. Syphilis, the Spanish flu.
Considering the living quarters are on top of each other.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, this stuff, STDs. These things...
Yeah, with all the words. Let's not forget about the
That's
rape.
a laugh about that, but
Exactly.
It's not a laugh of mirth. It's of horror.
Yeah, really.
This is what contributed to the fact that they don't know how many people died there. There are people that...
Just dying every day.
Yeah.
Probably.
There are people
how many
now...
undocumented people were there?
Yeah, how many...
Clearly all the kids, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of the kids.
Okay, they're not known for having immune systems.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. They also opened up a hospital there for World War I veterans who were... Yeah, amputees and who had some, dire injury that needed, whatever they had for physical therapy back then. Mm-hmm. That was opened up on the grounds.
This is the worst of both worlds. This is the worst thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. And...
I'm sad that this happened in Illinois.
Yeah. But this doesn't stop because even when it was open, it had a reputation for being haunted.
Oh, I'm sure.
Staff
Absolutely.
And, I mean, obviously you can't really take the word of the patients too much, but staff would talk about things being knocked over in rooms where nobody was in, or being pushed by an unseen force. It was just all this negative energy.
Yeah,
it was just
gonna
pooling.
say that. It's got to be that. Like, it started out so strong and positive, and then just morphed and turned. You know.
Absolutely. And after they closed down the hospital,
Thank God.
yeah, and it was still standing there for a good long time.
Do you know when they closed it down?
I think it was in the early 80s when Reagan closed down a lot of the mental hospitals.
We made it to the 80s.
Yeah, this was very recent.
No.
Yeah.
Was it still horrible
That's
up in the
over a
80s?
decade. That's,
Oh my God,
that's
it was
over a century.
Yeah, it was at its worst in the 80s.
Oh,
Jesus fuck.
So when they finally closed it down in the late 80s, these kids were going into the...
Wait, that was when America was great.
Again.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Trying to stir the pot a bit. But,
Swing and a miss, Chip.
There were tunnels that connected the main hospital to the other smaller buildings,
Of course.
so that the staff and patients didn't have to walk outside in the cold in the winter.
Sure.
But
That makes
when
sense, I
these
suppose.
kids were exploring down there, they weren't supposed to be down there. They found that there were rooms that were bricked up, and they had a little opening at the bottom and a little opening where you could look in to see what patient was in there. Bricked up.
Like, straight up, we're talking fucking Edgar Allan Poe shit.
Yes.
Some Half-Life 2 shit for our
They
more
would
contemporary
put
listeners.
the most violent people down there.
They
There
would just say, fuck it, guess where you're going for the rest of your goddamn
were
life?
no lights, no water, no toilet.
What do you do?
Shit on the floor,
And you just die of...
and you don't die because they obviously
Thirst?
feed you because there's a little hole at the bottom.
Yep.
Jesus.
So guess who got that bitch duty?
Yeah.
The greenhorn.
Oh, absolutely. Well, these kids were walking down there, and
Jesus Christ.
they thought that they heard somebody, a guard, who was making sure that no one was supposed to be there, walking down the hall in front of them without his light on. So they all hid, and one kid claimed to have been pulled by the back of their sweatshirt from one of the openings in the bricked up wall.
Shit.
Yeah. So they fell backwards against this wall, and the bricks just crumbled away.
Oh, God.
And they swore that they felt an evil presence emanating from inside of that room.
How can it not be?
Yeah.
All that-
And those tunnels are still there. They've sealed them up, but they're still down there.
Chip, let's go.
I'm not going to break a law to die.
Worst of both worlds.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. I'm not going to break a law to have a heart attack in a tunnel. That is just not...
Well, the other thing
What a
that
nightmare.
the other part of the tour that we went on. So yeah, we did this happy. We learned all this happy story, and then we were given ghost hunting equipment to walk around
Nice.
the field. Like, it was along the fence that was outside of the hospital, and I had an EMF meter. I'm pretty sure mine was broken because it didn't register my phone or my flashlight, which clearly it was not a functioning EMF meter.
Okay.
But
Maybe for our listeners, what is an EMF
an
meter?
EMF meter is an electromagnetic frequency meter, and what it does is it picks up electromagnetic frequency is given off by any electronic device, but ghosts are supposed to give off electromagnetic energy because their soul, if it was supposed to interact in our reality, feeds off of that energy. So it kind of collects wherever they are. And an EMF meter is supposed to register that, where there shouldn't be electromagnetic frequency, particularly outside in an open field, away from like a flashlight or a cell phone. It supposedly should register that there, but it didn't even register my phone. So, yeah. And then,
You
yeah.
never turned it on?
And then the other thing is this woman, she is so knowledgeable. I highly recommend if anybody's in Illinois and they can go on this tour. It's called the Haunted Hometown Tour.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the tours is the Hell's Back Gate and the Pauper's Pauper's Cemetery, which we'll talk about in a second. It is awesome. Everybody should go see this. It was only $25 for about a 2-hour walk around. It was so much fun. But she had this app on her iPad, and she said what it does is it's a radar that's supposed to register EMF in the nearby area, and that if it's green, it's passive and it's very light, like signal. If it's blue, it's a little bit stronger. If it's yellow, it's very active. Or if it's red, it's super active.
And right behind you right now.
Oh god. Or aggressive.
Okay.
Okay.
But wait, iPads can just detect EMF?
No, they can't. They're not built for that bullshit.
Okay, there we go.
I didn't have the heart to tell her that she got duped. But she got duped. Yeah.
Maybe.
No.
It has sensors in the area.
Maybe. No.
No. Unfortunately, it doesn't register any of that bullshit. But she did have a lot of other things. She had called EMF pump. And what it does, it's a little device that actually basically squirts electromagnetic energy into the air to try and almost coalesce spirit energy around you.
No, that's also made up.
Well,
also very
very made up.
Ghost hunting is a made up science. It's not like the Ghostbusters where you have your positron collider on your back and you can...
He's making some good points.
Yes. And you can track them and contain them in a unit with a laser grid. It doesn't exist.
Yet.
You know what? I cannot wait for that technology to exist. I'm going to be a ghost hunter so hard when that really happens. But I can't.
I honestly think the rapture already happened, just no one was good enough. So.
Damn,
fine.
You're like 3 people. God's like, what the hell? There's 7 billion of you.
3 made the cut?
Oh, yeah.
And one of your names is fucking Steve? Are you kidding me?
Fuck you, Steve.
Well, to go on to Pauper's Cemetery,
That's a bad name for a cemetery.
It is. It's the cemetery for Elgin State Hospital. And we weren't allowed to walk into the actual grave site where all of the headstones were. And think of a football field filled with gravestones.
I don't want to imagine
it's about a dozen, maybe 18 rows and hundreds of gravestones down. You can't see the end of the gravestones. The other thing to know about this is that the name on the top of the gravestone is only the last person buried in there.
Oh,
There's anywhere from 3 to 5 caskets in one site. So
joke?
No, this is true. They didn't have anything else to do. That's why they started burning people, because they were just thinking of the most economic way of getting rid of bodies. They just didn't know what else to do. So,
stacks on stacks.
Yes. So
Say
we
it
couldn't
like that,
walk
Jim.
out. The idea was that because these things were just cheap pine boxes that they were buried in, they settled and they sagged and they rotted, so that there were some spots that were really low and dipped, and you could trip and really hurt yourself by banging your head on a gravestone.
Jesus.
The other thing is, because it was so thin, you could actually end up shooting through into someone's casket, which has happened before.
Jesus.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to go past a certain point.
What if you go on the gravestone?
I guess that's one thing, but I probably wouldn't have done that.
I think then a ghost just comes out and is like, hey, cut that out!
Get the shit out.
Yeah, they're just all pushing each other. I feel
but-
like my contributions to this podcast for the last 10 minutes has been fuck, shit, and Jesus.
Well, let me tell you some more.
What else is there to say, though?
Nothing, man. This is awful.
Well, here's the other thing: is this site is known to have? They called it just like the Black Presence, which was like a shadowy being that moved around in the gravesite.
That's a really cool name for a ghost, the Black Presence.
Because it's very aggressive. It actually speaks into people's ears.
And it's black.
And it's black.
Very racist.
And
I'm kidding.
Well, it's a negative being, but it just doesn't want people to be there. I guess a lot of
malevolent or just wants to be left alone.
I would say just more negative than malevolent. Just actively,
a real dick.
Yeah, just actively does not want the living there.
Okay.
And there were plenty of tour guides have quit because of that place.
Just throwing chairs. Get out of here.
The woman who ran it said that a lot of people who walk in there get a nauseous feeling in their stomach. They get dizzy. They get headaches. They can feel the malevolence in the air.
Which you'll remember from an earlier episode is often attributed to infrasound. Mm-hmm. But what infrasound is like the low vibration hummings of like a very large fan or of a house settling. So to hear it out in nature is something entirely different.
Extremely difficult for that to happen in a place like that. Mm-hmm. But people quit. I was hungry. I really wanted some pizza when I was in there, so we decided on getting some Lou Malnati's afterwards.
Oh, that sounds so good.
It was really good.
Your deepest pizza?
Oh God, yeah. But when I was in there, there were a few things that I saw. I really didn't get too much of a negative vibe.
You took pictures, right?
I took pictures.
You should put those up on
We're gonna put them up on the Tumblr.
Yep.
We got a Tumblr.
See him now.
Holla.
At the time, there was nothing that I could see, and there weren't, as far as I could tell, any insects out that night. And I got 2 pictures of the graveyard that I was taking, where there's this kind of like transparent, almost string, or I guess I don't know what to call it. It's just this weird thing that shows up in a frame and kind of swoops up one way and swoops out in another way. In 2 different pictures.
If you played the Wind Waker from The Legend of Zelda, you know how the wind kind of does like these weird like whoops? Mm-hmm. It kind of looked like that, except
black,
corporeal.
Oh. It was actually like a gray-white. Huh. Now, I have done some studies on like the rods and the orbs that you are supposed to see in grave sites and stuff like that.
Yep.
The orbs is just dust on your lens. That's all it is. Unless there is some like particularly convincing orb where it kind of is in between, like, or behind 2 trees, and you see it like in between the 2 trees, and it's hiding, like the tree is hiding part of it. That might be one thing. But more often, like 99% of the time, it's just dust. Rods, which are these, they almost look like these long ribbon-like, almost like lizards that fly through the air in pictures, are just bugs that are being caught with the flash and a low-speed shutter. So you can see their wings, and it kind of gives it that ribbon effect.
Gotcha.
This doesn't have that. So I can't truly explain what this was, because if it was a moth or a bug, you would be able to see its wings. So I don't know what this was. It definitely is not a hare. I'll post the pictures. You guys will see this.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that I didn't catch on film was just something I noticed right after I had been scanning with my flashlight, was this sudden movement, which looked like somebody like crouched down and hurrying along one side of the graveyard. And that caught my eye because I knew we weren't supposed to be out there. So I was going to be like, hey, what are you doing over there? But when I moved my flashlight, there was nothing.
Jesus.
And the next, I immediately went into what could it have been? So I keep scanning in the area. There were people not too far away, but they were standing taking pictures of all of the gravestones. So it couldn't have been them, and there was nobody else in that area behind them. So it wasn't a flashlight because it looked like arms and legs moving, but somebody
like a
crouched
raccoon,
down.
because they do that. You get on there.
Yeah, but not like a 4-foot tall raccoon.
No, they don't get that big.
No.
4-foot tall raccoon.
They can get pretty big.
They can get big.
Pretty.
But it definitely looked like if a person was crouched down, trying to hide.
And that's like the creepiest way to run.
It really is.
Yeah.
But that's
So-
seriously like what you're describing is like a raccoon, like who just grabbed like
Kind of hunched up.
like if they're grabbing something with like two hands.
That's true.
They like run and they scurry, and it's weird as fuck to see. Like just as like a
If you could imagine that, but like the arms, like
scurrying.
yeah, like kind of pumping. It was so strange.
Yeah.
It scared me a little bit, but yeah, my EMF meter also didn't work there, so whatever.
You just forgot to turn it on, dude.
I think you really did forget to turn
It was on. I shook it, and when you'd shake it, the needle would
Is it battery
move.
powered?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
battery
batteries in
powered.
there?
But apparently she changed the batteries. I don't know. I'm gonna buy my own EMF meter.
Do it.
As you're shaking it, it's just like beep boop boop bop. Stop shaking me.
But yeah, so I highly suggest everybody go do this. Apparently, they're looking for
Next year, let's do it.
They're even looking for people to host the tours. We could go do this.
You know I'm good.
You don't want to go to the graveyard, the Elgin State Mental Hospital graveyard? Do you know what the name? Okay,
Dude, I've been to graveyards, and I've been to graveyards on Halloween, and I've never had a good experience. I went to a creepy ass river
Uh-oh.
where in Michigan, I forget where it's. I think Pearson, Michigan.
okay.
On Halloween, to a place where a man hung 12 children.
Cool.
Yeah, and it was like a bridge over a river, and this was the sketchiest bridge you've ever seen. It was all rusted out. It was about 1.5 feet wide, and
Okay.
it went over this little, river.
So it was
and
a
the
bridge
mountain
over
into, like, a
troubled
bigger
water.
lake. Amen.
God.
And you had to take a creepy ass path to get there, to the tree, by the river, by the fucking bridge. And we saw, before we even got out there, we saw a bum hut, which I was like, great.
Bum hut.
That's what I need.
Bum.
Then we saw a fucking deer with its head missing.
Oh, good.
Jesus. Are
I'm
you
like-
serious?
Great. More things I need to see. And the whole time I was out there, I'm just like, I'm gonna get the fuck home. I don't know what I'm doing here. I hate being out in scary shit on Halloween. Why am I here?
What were you doing there?
Oh, no, college.
Okay, say no more.
That was fucking terrifying.
Oh yeah.
That sounds it.
And to have a job where I'm fucking taking people out to a mental hospital.
A deer with no head. That is the worst thing.
Yeah, well, people do that if they don't want the body or the meat. They
Yeah.
call it a
Okay.
trophy.
Oh, I
It's
guess
still
so.
creepy as fuck
Very.
to happen upon that.
Oh
on
yeah.
a way
In the
to
middle of
a-
nowhere.
Yeah, on a way to a creepy ass bridge.
Over troubled water.
I will also say that the street it was a dead end street that led up to the gate for the Hell's Back Gate. It's called Elgin Mental Hospital Drive.
What do they pay now? All right, let's be realistic here. What do they pay?
Oh, I'm sure it's not very much, but the stories that you're gonna have, I would love to
Some
do
for the
that.
grandkids.
Oh my
The
god,
grandkids.
it would be perfect.
If you get there.
You know what? If that's true, next summer, I think I'm gonna contact them and see about
Yeah.
I say we
hosting
at
this.
least go. We have to go ghost hunting.
Season could
Oh,
be
yeah.
fun, just doing weekends.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday nights, perfect. Whatever, I'll do it.
I'm just chilling at work. I'm like, hey, Matt, how's it going? And you're sitting at your desk and your head is turned completely around.
Just looking at you.
Yeah.
Like guys are like,
Okay, man. Thanks. I'll talk to you later.
Joe, I'm working from home.
So yeah, that's my ghost hunting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
it is a lot of fun, but terrifying.
Oh,
yeah.
I feel like
Terrifying in
the,
a sense that like at least you had a guide that could
Yeah.
you could sack the ash kind of, if anything came out.
What
no.
the what?
Sack the ash, sack the Yoshi. Move on. It's a Mario reference. I'm not gonna explain this.
when you're trying to jump and you're not making it,
Yeah,
you
and
jump
then
off
you
Yoshi.
Jump and
Ditch the
You know
sack
what?
the
She-
Yash.
Do you think that's a common saying, sack the yash?
I'm gonna
Should
use
be.
that now for forever.
I'm gonna use that.
I can't stop. I can't undo it.
You gotta sack the Yash.
Did you know what he was saying before?
No, it.
You just went along with it too?
I figure it meant push her over and run.
Yeah, I thought he just
Sack
said,
the yash.
take the guide, not
She
me.
needed 2 canes to move around, so
Oh no.
it was. He didn't need to do much.
You just had to walk at a
Yeah,
faster
brisk
pace.
pace. My worry was that we weren't going to see any ghosts, but there was going to be like an alien hiding like in a bush, and I was going to move my light across
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
then all of us abducted.
Well, you should have sacked the Yash.
Sack the Yash.
Hey, yeah, I would have pushed her over and ran. Or maybe I'd just
Kick her a
like...
few times while
Or
she's
go
down.
over the other...
I say that a lot and nobody questions me, so I think they get it, but maybe nobody gets it.
I think
Now
they just-
you got me self-conscious
I
about
think
it.
everyone
what,
just thinks
though?
you're having a stroke.
See, I got the context out of the sentence. I figured it out. I used my brain.
I wasn't even there.
I haven't even had that much alcohol, so I figured it out.
Got it done.
Got it down.
It just sounded like sounds. I mean, I get it now,
That's
sack the
what words
Yash.
are, but...
Oh, you know what? Oh, how the tides have turned.
So I feel like the movie that I brought to this doesn't even compare to the state hospital.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna breeze through the movie really quickly. Now, you two haven't seen this movie.
We might have to. We might.
If you like a good psychological horror movie that also has some good gore, some fantastic imagery that is going to stick to your brain.
Kind of like a Serbian film?
Ooh.
No.
Yeah, but much more like religious in tone.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, not like beating you over the head with it, but it's more like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch.
It's called
That was
Baskin.
the point of the movie.
Yeah.
Baskin? Okay.
Baskin. Baskin. It's on Netflix right now if anybody wants to watch it.
No shit.
Yeah.
We might have to watch this one
I'm
of these
gonna
days.
watch it real quick.
Sorry,
Well,
no, you go. I was just...
it's a Turkish horror film, and one of the things...
European, man.
No, that's the thing.
Yeah, they did horror right.
They're doing it really well right now.
Oh my god, this is the most terrifying image I've seen for a movie.
What?
And this is just the
Poster?
screen. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is the poster for it.
Oh, God. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
We need to get that up on
Are you kidding me?
So, Baskin is a fantastic movie. It's all subtitled. It's all in Turkish. Yeah. And
real hard watch.
basically, the plot of the movie is it's a bunch of Turkish police officers and detectives, 5 in specifically, not a bunch, are called to the scene of some sort of disturbance in an area that's known to be a little, I guess, almost negative or haunted. But
Yeah,
it's
like a
also
village.
yeah,
Haunted Village, something like that.
but it's also intercut with these long stretches of dialogue that are building up to like these characters having like these almost psychedelic experiences. This one guy keeps seeing frogs, and he has like these intense migraines that cause him to hallucinate. There's this one guy that had, at the very beginning of the film, he thinks it was a dream, but it could have been real, that just kind of bleeds over into the real world at the present time for him. It was so strange. But when they get to the location of the disturbance, as they go further and further into the bowels of this gigantic building...
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we go any farther,
Yeah.
when you say disturbance, like...
there was... I can't remember because it was all subtitled, so I missed why they were called there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they were just being called as backup.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah.
That I didn't...
Oh, yeah, they were backup.
They didn't meet up with anybody.
No.
Oh, I'm sure, absolutely.
So as they go further and further down, they notice that there is quite a bunch of fucked up shit happening there. Oh, I forgot the other thing.
The trailer's a nightmare to watch, so...
Yeah. So on their way there is they get into an accident because they hit somebody in the road. Somebody walked out in front of their truck while everyone was actually not paying attention and kind of like distracted and singing the song. They fucking run over a dude, which causes them to run off the road and sink their van in a local lake.
Jesus.
Everyone comes out of there okay, and they make it over to the...
Did they not investigate the
Did
dude?
they not call backup after they just hit a dude?
They tried to, but there was nobody there.
Okay.
There was no body, and none of the radios worked, which is always a great... Like, you're the backup, and your radios don't
Hey,
work.
man, you want to be the hero, though.
Oh, yeah.
I feel whenever you're watching a horror movie, the horror movie takes place in the universe without horror movies because no one ever sees these tropes.
There's no common sense.
That is true. That is true.
I call it a horror
Unless
movie brain.
you watch Scream.
Yeah, in Scream it's just so meta and self-referential. That...
Yeah, you got the extreme there. I mean.
Well, I look at it as in horror movies, everyone's been lobotomized. They have no concept of rational thinking.
No.
In these, well, I mean, you're not supposed to.
I mean, I think you're supposed to like put yourself in their shoes and be like, really, if you're getting chased, like, what are you gonna do when you have a fight or flight response and you have no?
I guess
really the only thing you're like, okay, I can either go in that cornfield and try to get away and hope he doesn't chase me, or I could go in that shed full of blades and hide. That's a tough choice. I think I would be like, all right, this guy's not going to think I'm hiding in the shed full of blades. All right, he's going to be like, why the fuck would they go in there? They see the blades. Hey, what's in the cornfield? So I'm going to get in my truck and drive away. I mean, I don't know, man. Like,
have you guys seen Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon? I mentioned it.
No, you told me about it. I still need to watch that.
So it is. It's like a mockumentary about this film crew who's following like the next up and coming serial killer, and it's in a universe.
I want to watch this so bad.
It's so good. Oh my god, we have to watch it.
First of all, I love mockumentaries.
Yeah.
And about an up and coming serial killer.
It's one of my favorite movies. Like it's just charming and funny and scary all the way through.
Oh man.
So they're following the serial killer, and they're back in Illinois. The local town of Haddonfield has been threatened for 3 decades by Michael Myers, and then there's Elm Street, where they say a serial killer even haunts their dreams, and it's this world where all these serial killers actually exist.
Oh, where everything was
and so
cool.
The newest one is Leslie Vernon, and he's a very nice, kind of charming guy, but he's talking about like how he's going to start his killing spree, and it's so cool because they're like, oh, well, I like to wear, like, fire-retardant clothing. That way, you know, if I get lit on fire, I'm okay. And you have to practice a lot of, like, breathing techniques. You have to be really good at cardio. Because when they see you, you have to be walking. But as soon as they look away, you need to be sprinting. Or just interesting sleight of hand. And it's funny, like, they're showing off his mentor. And they're like, oh, you know, he's been in his sensory deprivation chamber. And they're like, oh, how long has he been in there? Did he get in today? And she's like, it's Sunday. And like, oh, since Thursday. And so that's how they pretend to be dead. They just kind of drop their organs to zero. It's just such a fascinating, funny look at it.
What the fuck?
We
need
to watch this movie.
You will have to do a special screening. Okay, so Baskin, when they get into this building, they find one of the other police officers. I think there was 3 that were originally there. One of them they found in a room in one of the basement rooms.
And what's this building?
It used to be an old police station before the Ottoman Empire was overthrown. Okay. And I believe Turkey became a democracy.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when they find this guy kind of like beating his head against a wall because he's psychologically broken. He's hysterical. He doesn't know what's going on. So they try and lead him out of the building. So the guy with the migraines is leading him out while everyone else is going further in to investigate. The guy with the migraines...
That's the frog dude, right?
Is the frog dude. Sees a frog as it's hopping into another room and he follows it. Which is like, don't fucking go for the frog. You have a problem with frogs, don't go for the fucking frog. This is horror movie brain where you just become a 5-year-old and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna go after the frog because
I'm terrified of frogs.
That's an actual line from the movie. Yeah, I'm just gonna go after the frog.
So he goes in there and he finds like there's a person covered in blood and gore and just disgusting, covered in human waste. And they've got like a trash bag wrapped around their head in razor wire, tight, and they're having sex with someone else who's the exact same way, and they're all like screaming and moaning, and then like he looks over with his flashlight and there's like a room full of other people, and then he like turns his flashlight and there's a dude who's chained to the wall with a razor wire, and he's screaming and writhing, and you're like, what the fuck did I just get into?
I don't think we're watching this movie too.
Okay, so like he goes in a blind panic mode, and they all like clamor over him. I'm like getting like this like fucking heartbeat right now thinking about this again, because I watched this when I was eating breakfast one morning.
You idiot.
Yeah, nice, beautiful.
This in the morning?
Oh yeah, I got up early to watch it.
Wait, was this before work?
I think that's
right before work.
Are you kidding me?
No.
How did you show up? I would have called Joe and been like, my world is broken.
I need a moment to just exist.
It is difficult for me to feel things. This is the only catharsis I have. This is the only way I can feel anything anymore. So yeah, that's what I did. So anyway, I
have to go, guys.
So yeah, he gets everyone climbs over him and he dies.
Froggy dies?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh shit! I was thinking the way you described him, he's gonna be the main character.
No.
Nope, I guess not.
Does the main character get out? Spoiler alerts, guys.
I will spoil the ending when I get to it.
About what minute are we into this movie? Because it sounds like we just hit.
Okay,
I think
so
we hit 4 minutes.
Yeah, I think this is the opening credits.
no, you don't get to this until almost the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Oh no shit!
It's a short movie. It's
Okay.
you're looking at about an hour 50.
Wow.
Yeah. So you've got this huge chunk of time
Is
where
it
it's
hour 50?
So like
Yeah,
that huge chunk of
hour
time
50.
is just the suspense of
I think it's about an
getting
hour
there.
50 minutes. Yeah.
So it's
That's-
it's just the suspense.
Almost 2 hours.
Shit.
Yeah.
No.
No, maybe an hour and a half. I'm sorry. Okay, maybe an hour and a half.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just this huge amount of time. It's stressful. It's dark. It switches between. It almost seems like it switches between realities at some points. And
Can I just interrupt real fast with
Yeah.
something that I noticed from the trailer that kind of may lend a little bit extra horror to like these kind of downtime scenes? Chip, have you seen Dexter before?
Yeah.
You know the opening credit song?
Oh, yeah,
How,
yeah,
like
yeah,
everything
yeah.
is doing is like hyper stylized and like made to seem like
Gross.
Gross.
Breakfast.
yeah, like he's just making breakfast. There's a scene in the trailer where they're eating at some deli and some dude's throwing like some cuts of
Oh,
meat.
yeah.
It's watching him throw these cuts of meat on the grill. It's like his hands are like these dripping, bloody, fucking
they're glistening.
glistening with blood, and he drops
Yeah.
the meat on, and it's like raw, recently savaged food, and you know it's got like the food like sizzling and cooking.
Yeah, and that's the downtime.
Yeah, and just all very stylized, and even though it's just someone making dinner, it's still
Yeah.
Gross.
hard to watch.
Was
So
that? I'm curious. I'm gonna shut up.
no.
I want to
Okay.
hear it.
So
I'm just gonna be rubbing my temples.
they go
I know
further
the
in.
Leave your body, Jacob.
They see all these demonic and satanic images all over the walls, weird like script, and these images of like it's like a goat head or like a cow head on top of a
probably
person's
goat.
head,
Probably a goat.
and
It's kind of weird that that'd be in a Turkish movie.
well, because I
Are they
mean,
Catholic?
it was
No, they're pretty big
they're
Arabic,
Muslim,
aren't
You're
yeah.
Muslim?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they. I mean, that
The
factors
Empire
into
was
it. Religion is a big factor in this, and that I think that's one of the characters is very religious, and finally, like they get captured by some of the people, and they all wake up chained to a wall. There's 4 guys chained up. The
Boy.
young guy is the main character, and he's watching his father figure and boss, who is chained across from him, and then there's another guy who's unconscious, and then another police officer next to him. The guy who's unconscious gets his belly split open, and
Disemboweled?
disemboweled by the leader of this cult of fucking weirdos.
Wait, so hold on.
Hey man, that's not the worst thing that could have happened to him.
Yeah, that's just gross.
It's true. Well, they.
I mean, the opening sequence is 2 people chained up, face fucked up.
With razor wire.
No, that's not the
Close
opening
to
sequence. That's 40.
No,
That's
opening sequence of getting into this
it's
hellhole.
true.
Not the opening sequence of the movie, but the opening sequence of where they're going.
Yeah.
What if that was the opening sequence in the movie? Just this is some shit.
It's like,
That's all, folks.
Is this supernatural, or is it kind of grounded in reality and just like crazy cold people? Or?
it's supposed to be grounded in reality.
So this is stuff that people did to other people.
Yes,
Okay.
but it's like a cult that's trying to further some sort of evil agenda.
Ah, okay.
But everything seems to be like symbolic and it means something bigger.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so the leader of this cult is the actor's actually has a physical deformity where he's got these large lips, these weird big ears. He's got like he's just
Gigantism kind of.
it's almost
in
like
the
if
face. Gigantic.
it's like if he had gigantism but it was normal size.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, I mean, he's actually has this physical deformity, and he was the star of the fucking show.
He was that good.
He was perfect.
Nice.
I can't believe this guy was awesome. And he carved the eyes out of a guy, and then he became one of the cult members.
Oh, the guy who got his eyes cut off?
Yeah.
Wait, was he a police officer?
Oh
Yeah.
snap!
And he's just like, I'm cool now. My eyes
Yeah.
are gone. Don't kill me.
No. He was not cool. His eyes are gone. His eyes were carved out of his fucking head.
But he still became a member.
He was forced to do it. He couldn't see.
Oh.
This is this him.
Yep, that's him.
We'll put this up on our Tumblr.
Wow.
That just looks wrong. He looks like a homunculus,
Almost.
like the exaggerated
He
features.
does look like a homunculus.
Yeah, and that's him, all right. So, he in almost in passing, he tells one of the guys that whoever dies with his eyes closed is reborn at his end.
Wait.
So
Wait,
that
sorry, can
comes-
you repeat that? What?
I think it was like if you die with your eyes closed, you're reborn at your end, or you were born. Yeah, I think it's like you were born at your end. So they'll explain that later.
It's like he died and come back? What minute are we in this movie right
Yeah, this has to
Like-
be like the climax.
Like the last 15 minutes.
now? Okay.
Like all of this.
What's up, fellas?
Hi.
For those of you listening, Shane and Dan just came in.
Hello.
That's our roommate. and
We're
friend.
almost done here, so we'll. Yeah.
So,
Um, So
Good, Shane.
now they're at the end. They finally kill the guy, main character's father figure.
Oh no.
He
I was
kills.
hoping he'd
What?
survive.
Well, then he kills the cult leader, and everyone scatters because they don't know what to do. And he's running out of there. He's covered in gore and blood.
oh, he gets out.
Yeah, he gets out.
Nice. Woo! Let's go for the good guys.
And he's
I don't
running.
think so.
He's running in the road, and he's trying to flag down a car.
And then a piano falls on him.
And then he sees it's his van coming up, and he
Oh
Died with
no!
his eyes closed.
he covered his eyes at the last moment. He gets hit.
He died with his eyes closed.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, now that makes sense.
No, that still doesn't make sense. The
Yeah,
movie
it
does
does.
not make sense.
You'll be born at the end, so he's
Yeah.
forced to relive that moment.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's a loop.
Yeah.
That does make sense. Fuck this
And
movie.
in between all of this shit is all of this like surreal, like exposition, which it is perfect for this movie.
So he gets fucked more than
Everyone gets fucked.
No,
Oh, yeah.
because he's stuck in a loop of dying and reliving this.
Yeah,
So that's more. I'd say he's more fucked than everybody else.
That
This thing
explains
just
why they didn't
died.
find the
You
body.
guys talking about Doctor Strange?
I wish.
no,
No.
that would be positive. No, we're not. We're talking about
Yeah.
Baskin.
We
What
gotta
was
watch
that
this
one
movie.
Nick Cage movie.
Baskin.
Next.
No,
Baskin Robbins.
Where it was like
Lord of War.
no, it was like a religious one.
Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
Left
dude.
Behind.
Fuck no.
Left Behind.
Yeah, Left Behind.
No. Wait, is this the one that was with the girl who was like
With the Rapture.
The Rapture, yeah.
Yeah, that's Left
And it
Behind.
was like, oh, she's the Antichrist, but she was actually
Right.
like Jesus.
No, I'm back out. I don't
Old
know.
school.
No, it was
I
like
love
it was a Nick Cage movie
I like
where
that
like this
a lot.
girl it was like this girl was born in this like super religious like town, and like all of like the plagues were coming to this town, and so they convinced Nick Cage.
The Strangers.
No, man, they convinced Nick Cage.
Wicker Man.
No,
National
the towel
treasure.
convinced Nick Cage that this girl was the Antichrist. When in reality, she was Jesus, and this was like a satanic cult town.
Oh no, that wasn't Nick Cage.
That wasn't
I don't,
Nick Cage?
No,
I remember
was it
what that
Sandra
was.
Bullock?
No,
Braveheart.
it was a dude, man.
I think it was Braveheart.
I swear it's Nick Cage.
It's not Nick Cage. I know what
You
you're
know what would
talking
be
about.
amazing?
It happens in Louisiana.
What would be amazing
Yeah,
is if
yeah.
they
It's
came out
not
with a
Nick Cage.
website where you could type something in
It's
like
not
that,
Nick Cage.
and it would give you answers.
I'm not
Can
gonna
someone invent
write
Google?
a fucking synopsis.
Movie about a
in
satanic
Google.
girl,
Are you
not
kidding
Nick
me?
Cage.
Yeah. Oh,
Not Nick Cage.
movie about satanic
You don't
girl
even need to type
turned
half a minute;
Jesus.
it'll read the rest for you. It reads your mind. Google's a mind reader.
Turned Jesus.
Well,
Movie satanic girl turned Jesus. Nothing, guys.
guys, this has been real, but I'm gonna go get stoned in the garage and.
Wow.
Siri, what's the movie where Nick Cage may or may not help out a cult and maybe there's also Jesus? I don't know.
National Treasure.
I said that.
National Treasure.
No, it's the weaker ad.
Why not Face Off?
Siri doesn't know.
Why not?
I thought it was next.
I thought it was Left Behind.
Leaving Las Vegas.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Wasn't even in that movie. Okay, well,
All right.
this got awful.
Anyway, so yeah, Baskin.
We are gonna figure this
Everybody, please see that movie. If you ever want to feel bad and like sick to your stomach. Oh, there was a goat-headed girl who shit out a baby who was like all meat and weird, and it dropped into a bucket, and then they took the baby and wrapped it in like a trash bag, and they took it upstairs. See the movie.
No.
Preferably with breakfast.
Yes,
No.
that sounds good.
I suggest bacon or ham.
Chip, let's just watch
Eggs.
Behind the Mask.
Something positive.
God damn it. Okay, sorry everybody. I gotta say it. The movie was The Reaping.
He was thinking of 50 First Dates.
And it wasn't Sandra Bullock.
Who was it?
Hilary Swank.
There you go. I don't get.
They look the fucking same.
They're the same person. Anyway, so that's our Halloween late episode. I hope everyone enjoyed it.
I know I did.
I did and I didn't.
Exactly. I had
We
fun.
hit some rough patches, but I feel like we've all grown as people.
I agree. So yeah, everybody follow us on Twitter at MakeItWeirdPod. Email us at letsmakeitweird@gmail.com.
We will not answer.
We have a Tumblr page. Find it.
Run by my beautiful girlfriend.
Instagram. We have an Instagram. What else do we have?
Twitter yet?
We did the
Yeah,
Twitter.
we said
Oh, that
Twitter
was the
already.
first- sorry, I'm not.
That was the first thing we said.
I'm
I
not
think that's
part-
everything.
I'm not part of these plugs.
That's all of it. Yep.
We're looking to set up a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Did I just say YouTube? A YouTube channel. Me and Matt will, we'll go hunting for some ghosts. Maybe we'll do some funny animations if
Oh,
either of
hell
us
yeah.
ever learn how to do that.
Oh yeah. I can totally
Maybe we'll
do
just
it.
put our podcast up there. We're on Mixcloud. We're on Cast.
Well, we're not on any of that stuff yet.
Oh, okay. We're not even on Mixcloud.
So we're not going to talk about that.
This
No, we're on
podcast.
Mixcloud, but yeah.
Send us an email and we'll shoot you a cassette of our podcast.
Yeah. We need a self-addressed stamped envelope. Send it to P.O. Box. Fuck,
Don't.
whatever.
don't.
Honestly, if you send this letter, I will. I don't know, man.
Chip will deliver it on horseback.
There's so many things that I would do for this letter to be.
We got our first review. Chip, we got our first review.
Yeah.
How
Yes.
terrible was it?
It was fairly positive.
Yeah, it was very positive.
Fairly
Thank
positive.
you, fairly positive review guy. I'm
Yeah.
sure you're gonna listen to this one.
I hope so.
No,
Or
I think he's
gal,
off.
guy or gal. I don't. Maybe I
was
don't
a guy,
know.
he was a guy.
I don't want to assume what you are. You could be asexual. I'm just gonna, leave it. I'm gonna stop.
We're thinking of
talking.
androgynous. Asexual refers to not being turned on by anyone.
Doesn't that make you like not a boy or girl then?
No, maybe. This is not the right podcast to
Yeah,
discuss
it's
this.
not, human
about
sexuality
social
is not on this
issues.
podcast.
Welcome back to our human sexuality podcast.
That's where we're going with this one.
So,
Uh,
yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the Halloween bonus episode, and I think that's it. That's all we got.
Follow. Yeah. No. I don't know.
well said, Chip. A true orator.
Anyway, guys, we'll see you soon, and everybody, please keep it weird. Bye.
Bye!
Fuck you.